Hello, everybody. This is Lisa Robin Young, and I want to welcome you to this very special convo that I'm having today. You guys have seen me talk to Dave Ursillo before. We've tried to shoot video before, and it didn't quite work out. So we're going to do something. He's got this experimental project that he's working on, and he's going to share more about where he's at, what he's been doing since the last time we talked about his first book, because now he's got two more, right? Two more books?
I've one more since, and working on my third, and I've been published in about six other books since then too.
So busy guy, and he's going to bring us up to speed on all of the great stuff that he's been up to. And we're going to talk, we're going to riff a little bit on Noble Empire, Inspired Life, and just see what he's doing. So I want to welcome you, Dave, to our community, and just catch us up, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Well, as you started to mention, the nature of this project, it's just really not a very catchy, wild, engaging name, but it's just called Conversations and Purpose. And I basically threw out a status on Facebook and said, I want to be a part of 50 conversations with people on subjects that matter to them. Being a writer, being an online entrepreneur, I think naturally we get into a habit of wanting to grab people to talk to them about things we want to talk about. Of course, that's what we do with clients. It's what we do when we create books, product offerings, services. I wanted to kind of flip the lens around and say, okay, what matters to you right now? I want to talk about it with you and just explore it in a meaningful way that cuts through the la-di-da and gets to the meat of the matter. It's kind of just what I've been called to do these days and in recent months. And I wanted to do that with friends and people who I might not know extremely well even. I consider you to be a good friend, but someone who I've only just connected with online and never spoken to. A really, really fresh, really real conversation. So that's what this project is. And what's been going on since we last talked? Geez, everything is different now, isn't it? Just kind of how the way life is, that everything is always shifting and evolving. When we first connected, I was a writer and an aspiring author who was self-publishing his first book that I had written in 84 days. It was called Lead Without Followers. And at that time, Lisa, I was still of the ilk that the dream to publish that book would open up all the doors that I was looking to break through that were still locked in my life. It was that first moment as an artist, as a writer, as a creative, as an entrepreneur, where you're like, okay, if I just keep showing up, if I just keep doing it, if I just keep doing it, then I'm going to get through that door, and then all the rewards will be on the other side. And I got through the door, and then I realized that there was another door behind it, and then there was another door behind that one, and on it goes. So basically, my first book writing experience, the publication process, and everything that came after, publicity, marketing, sales, doing book talks, was all a really priceless experience where I learned so much about myself and so much what I wanted. But I also learned so much more in the space, the emptiness, the gap that followed that threshold, which was, okay, what happens now? This isn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought that everything would be easier and be coming to me more. But what you don't understand when you're a young artist and an emerging artist is you don't get rewarded for showing up. Showing up is just fundamental. You need to show up, you need to consistently show up, but nobody is going to give you a lick of credit for just showing up because they're concerned with their own selves. They're concerned with what is going on in other people's lives, with their own lives. And showing up is really your own battle with your own self-belief. It's a battle for your confidence to believe that you're capable of doing it. It's like you really have to prove it to yourself. And after you prove it to yourself, then you really start to step more into your own truth and prove something to others, to work with others, to understand them more. So there's this kind of a layered effect that I experienced after writing my first book, and what that ended up doing was setting me into a real evolution where my next book the year following, this was last summer, I published a collection of poetry that was totally unlike anything I'd ever written. Nobody had known me for a poet at all, like my friends, family. All of a sudden I was like, hey, I have this book of this poetry, 81 spiritual poems at that, entitled God Whispers on the Wind. Spiritual poems of light, laughter, and love. This is like unlike anything that anyone had ever heard from me. It's unlike anything I had ever heard from myself. But it was a total creative reinvention. And it was like, I'm not the leadership guy. I'm not the personal leadership brand. I'm totally just going to go with the natural ebb and flow of what I feel called to do as a writer, a creator, a messenger, a leader in my own right. And after that, in the last year, I've started working with upwards of 75 writers, artists, and creatives in a private membership writers group called the Literati Writers. And you can hear my private jet going in the background, possibly. That's my G4. My pilot's bringing it around. I have G4 money now, so just like the song about having a private jet. So I'm going to the Keys later, and then I'll be back by supper. No, it's not. But in the last year, I've worked with 75 writers who are poets and photographers. They're just like artists and creatives and self-starters within this writing community. And I've learned so much about what it means to be an artist and a creative. And I've also learned, to bring my diatribe home, is that artistry, for me, writing, but any sort of creative expression, even entrepreneurship, they're such incredible vehicles for learning, for self-awareness, for personal growth, and for delivering messages to people in the ways that we hope to permeate them, which I believe is in a way that's engaging and invitational, and that brings people in rather than forces them away, which is how a lot of outward, the flashy marketing and a lot of traditional marketing and sales techniques, the old world 20th century sort of techniques of like sell, sell, sell. They kind of create distance between you and the potential customer or client or reader. Art, though, is not only a really strenuous personal endeavor where you're constantly confronting your fears, you're constantly confronting the unknown, uncertainty, feelings of, do I really deserve to be called an artist? Do I really deserve to charge $500 for this oil painting? Do I really deserve to tack a price tag onto a writer's group that operates online like mine? So these questions are all kind of present within you, and then when you share that art with the world, whatever it may be, then you have this other rich layer of experience where you're learning about yourself, you're learning about people, and ideally you're serving them in some greater way, which is ultimately, I think, really, really rewarding. And that's basically what the last couple of years have been for me.
Wow. You said a couple of things that I wanna circle back to, because I think
Mm,
they're really important. The idea of not being rewarded just for showing up. I think we are rewarded, but we're not rewarded in the way we hope to be rewarded. Because
yes.
as creatives, and let's be clear, everybody on some level is a creator, an ideator, an
Yeah.
innovator. In some realm, the nature of human existence is we create. Whether we're fixing
Right.
dinner or writing poetry or speaking on, it doesn't matter. The nexus of the fact that we're human means we must create. And so
Right.
I'm really talking to everybody when I say this, but particularly people who choose a profession that is based on creative results. We're the
Mm,
people who are like, this one thing is going to be the thing that makes it for us, and we do the thing and we don't get the result we were hoping for, and we go, it becomes this whole self-worth issue. What did I do wrong?
yeah.
How did I screw up? Why did this not work? And what I've started working on is a behind the scenes kind of documentary of my life and work. Um,
Mm,
Not just the business that I'm creating and the work that I'm doing, but also the way I'm trying to live my life. Because, like you said, we don't see that. We assume we have to hit some pinnacle and we've arrived, and there's
yeah.
no arrival point. It's this ongoing, continuous journey, and sometimes we loop back, and sometimes we charge forward quickly, and sometimes we hit a wall and have to back up, and
Right.
we don't get to hear or experience that. And in what I've seen in watching you, kind of from a distance a little bit, just watching your whole evolution, that's the part that your real fans seem to enjoy, is hearing about what didn't quite go the way you thought it was gonna go, and yet,
Yeah.
what is it Maya Angelou says, and still I rise.
Right.
That didn't do what I wanted to do, so I'm gonna go over here. And one of the things that I thought was um, so telling about your character and who you are as a person was when your book first came out. um, it got mixed reviews for what you had intended it to be.
Yeah.
And yet you were very willing to go back to your audience and do a post-mortem on, this is what I did, this is what went well, this is what could have gone better, this is what I'm going to do different next time, and oh, by the way, now I've got this. And you shared your whole spiritual, not like your practice, but some of that, like
Mm.
the spiritual evolution that was going on with you, because I believe that that's part of the creative process. We hit
Right.
this spiritual blossoming in the process of realizing that our creation is not the thing. It's
Mm.
the act of creating and identifying as a creator that is the thing. And that process of unfolding is really very much a spiritual practice. It's a spiritual thing. And then
Mm.
what happens for us is our real fans kind of latch on to us in that blossoming. And that's what I saw with you as you were testing the literati writers just for that first trial. It was one
Mm.
of those, I'm gonna sit back and watch how this works. Let's see how Dave does with this
Mm.
thing. And then you did something that was very different in terms of how membership models are traditionally run online, and clearly I'm not behind the scenes on what you've done there. But if you're willing to get a little dirty on that, I'd like to kind of pick at that a little bit and get
Yeah.
some of the, why did you choose to do things the way you did them, and what were some of the results for you. I'm not just talking financial, but spiritual, from a creator standpoint. what
Right.
what did you do? Why did you make the choices you made, and how's that working out for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful questions. And so this was last summer, to transport you back in time. So last, around late July, early August, I'm living in New York City. And like many in New York City, I'm running out of money. And I was having a conversation with my friend Jenny Blake, who is also a blogger and an author. And I was telling her, I was like, Jenny, I'm a writer. This was a point where my poetry hadn't been published yet. I'm still banging my head against the wall with the leadership stuff, and I'm still trying to make that work. And it's just not working for me. It's not rewarding me. It's not getting any attention or traction from a brand or business standpoint. And I said, Jenny, like, this isn't working for me anymore. I need to totally reinvent myself. So I'm going to publish this book of poetry. I don't know what that's going to happen, what that's going to be like, but I'm not even going to market it. I'm just going to publish it. And I really feel like I need to go back to my roots as a writer. And I also am, by the way, running out of money. So like, I don't know what to do. And Jenny said, well, why don't you create I give her full credit for this because she did feed me the idea and I ran with it. She said, why don't you create something simple, a Facebook group, $20 a month, for 20 people, and that's what, $400 in your pocket extra every month. And I said, that's a really good idea, and it'll force me to write. It'll force me to step into the role of a teacher. And so Jenny's conversation really reminded me that I needed to I had to live in the environment that I needed to live in, and as a writer, and I wasn't writing, so I needed to write more. So what I decided was I was going to create an environment that would force me to take the role of writer. I would need to write for my writers in the literati. I would need to write more, I would need to publish more, I would need to be leading by example a little bit ahead of the curve in order to teach these people who are giving me their money to learn about writing and publishing, and on it goes. So that was the initial idea, and I said, okay, well, what if I don't like the monthly model because I want people who are actually invested in, and I don't want it to be a rotating door. I didn't want potential members to have a monthly choice whether they would continue their membership or not. I wanted there to be a longer window, which is kind of a crazy thing to do in a very ADD world where we have our lives going on, and then when you go online and there's so much, there's social media, everything's kind of bombarding you. Monthly is an easier choice. I decided to go with a quarterly membership option. And I decided to test out the idea, and just for $50 a month, and because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. $50 a quarter, and so it was even less than $20 a month. And just wanted to get people who were committed to give me 3 months of their time, and we would do weekly writing prompts that I would personally write myself, lessons that would be delivered to their inbox. A live monthly author interview. Jenny Blake was the first interviewee. And some little knickknacks and things like that would be totally experimental. And including a Facebook group and group calls, kind of interactive Q&As and workshops. And I spent 3 months just kind of figuring out what was working and what I was actually trying to teach and what people's questions were and what their struggles were. And it was wonderful, Lisa, because these were my people. They were my longtime readers. They were people that really, they were either quietly reading my blog or they had connected with me over the years. And now they were ready to step into themselves because I formulated the writers group around the idea that not only will you write more, learn about writing, learn how to write better, all these things that you mentioned about being a creator of your reality as well as a creator of books, and really kind of the parallels between artistry and life. So the whole pitch for the literati writers has been and still is the journey in life is the greatest reward, and the creative journey should be no different. You need to, I think a lot of creatives or creators have, as you mentioned, this outcome-oriented focus where I myself thought, I'm going to write this book, it's going to be tough, it's going to be a struggle, but once I write it and publish it, then I'll start getting the rewards I'm looking for. Then it'll start getting easier. I didn't really realize then, as I do now, that the journey is the reward, which means I need to actually find the peace, the presence, the love, the gratitude, the experience, the connection, the depth and nuance, the beauty of life and of the work and of everything else that's involved with being a creative or just in life in general, in the moment and continually, every day or multiple times during a day, throughout. That's really what it's all about, right? So, and then like the other nuance to the group was I wanted to bring people together in an environment that was explicitly positive and supportive and didn't involve breaking people down, unwarranted criticism, unfair judgment, critiquing for the sake of critiquing and really trying to like rip apart people's work. This was going to be a space where creativity was rewarded for a love of creativity. And I really believe that there's a lot to that because we're not told ever since we were kids, there's like that statistic that shows around like the 4th grade age is when imagination and creativity starts to dissipate in children because that's when they first start to receive real criticism from teachers or adult figures about things that they're creative about, the things that they enjoy, creating for the sake of creating. And that's not to beat up on adult figures or parents or teachers or anything. It's just kind of like that age where we start to become really abundantly aware of our social standing and pressures that we feel psychologically and emotionally when we expose some part of our inner selves to the world that as kids we were kind of oblivious to.
Well, and
we draw
we were trained. I mean, as adults, we were that age once, and that's what happened to us, and that's what happened to the people who did that to us. And I mean, it's just kind of we've come out of this very practical parochial worldview of the 1800s, early 1900s, where you had one job to do for your whole life, and you had to do it well, or your people weren't going to eat. And now we have so much more latitude. I mean, things aren't great for everybody, and I don't pretend that they are. But we have so much more latitude as a culture and as a society. We have more choices. We do a lot more job hopping. We have a lot more flexibility in the choices that we can choose to make, but we still have this narrow parochial trickle down approach to feeding and nourishing our youngins because that's what we've learned all of our lives. And it's your generation and I like to lump myself in there, even though I know I'm old compared to you, little whippersnapper. But I'm that generational bridge that bridges to your generation and still connects with the generation that came before me. And part of that is because of my family dynamic. My dad was in his 50s when I was born, so I mean, I got to see both generations. But it's that dynamic shift because you guys have so many choices and so many options. You were born in a space where you didn't have this to begin with, and you saw it, and you're like, WTF, come on. That's just not, it's not potent. It's not our reality. And you're trying to force us into this mold that just clearly does not fit who we are. And so you guys come up and you look around and it's like, how am I supposed to be me in this space? And it's your generation that's saying, that's not going to fly. It can't fly. It's been
Yeah.
grounded for at least a generation, and we're just now getting over the idea of whipping the dead horse and moving on.
Right, exactly. And that's it's really true. And I think that actually like
Centuries ago, life was probably similar, although different in its own different ways, in that people had careers, or at least they had like a trade. But in that they had one trade or series of trades, they also did other things that kind of nourished and provided for them. It wasn't like you would be a blacksmith by day and then go shopping at the supermarket at night to pick up food and groceries for the kids. You would grow your own vegetables and fruits, and you would have your own livestock, and so it was like you were very multifaceted in that sense. And I think that kind of is what constantly emerges today for the younger generation. It's not that they want to be like totally self-sufficient or creative or work with their hands or have livestock, for example. But the point is that there are multiple outlets of creative expression and exploration and play and learning and connection that are all nourishing to you in a variety of ways. It's just like it's accelerant. It really brings about a better self. Like I can't tell you how many times that every year that passes, I'm doing something else that's like something I couldn't have seen. Now I'm even transitioning into starting to lead and teach these creativity workshops, and with like a yoga flair to them. Not that I'm a yoga teacher, but I might now get my certification all of a sudden because I want to do this. So there's all these different means like every year that goes on, and I'm finding more like something else will be left behind because I've outgrown it, but something else comes into my focus, and I'm like, this is really awesome. Like I'm going to learn this, play in it, see how it benefits me, see what it teaches me about life and myself and people, package that in some creative medium, share it, and then move on. And it's just like it's a really invigorating cycle, and it's not even intentional. It's not mathematical or scientific. It's not rehearsed or it's just a practice, like you said, a lifelong practice. And I think in terms of creativity or being an entrepreneur, that there's so many people that I'm looking to connect with right now who have left the creative side of them behind because, as you mentioned, they think that they need to compartmentalize what they do and who they are into the, well, I'm not a writer. Well, I used to journal when I was younger, but now, how do I start? And it's these things like we're looking for the excuses of, that's not me, or that's not the idea of me that I now know myself as. So, yeah, I definitely resonate with that perspective, and I think that the more we kind of break our own compartmentalizations and can just let go of what we think things need to be for ourselves and just have more of an open, engaged, playful spirit. This is what writing and creativity have taught me. It's like, you can't be creative unless you are creative. You need to actually infuse your practice in your life and your outlook in ways that are imaginative and playful and engaging. Not that you can't be a morbid writer who's writing about like Edgar Allan Poe stuff, but that's still its own form of creativity, and you need to break the shackles of your own expectations and compartmentalizations.
Well, I think that's really what it is. It's about giving ourselves permission to really want what we want,
Hmm.
and not have somebody else's, well, you shouldn't want that because, or think of all the responsibilities you have, or the what would your mother think, or it's saying, I know all of that, and I'm really clear that I'm being called. There's this calling, this aching, this longing, this something inside me that's beckoning me back to that thing I used to do when I was a teenager, or that thing that I tried once that I was really awkward at, but it felt so invigorating, and I got to go back and try it and see what
Yeah.
happens. And we're giving ourselves permission finally, instead of waiting for someone else. When I first started coaching, I would constantly say, "You're looking for permission. I grant you permission. Go do it. You've got it. Go do it. But you don't
Right.
need my permission. You need to
Right.
give yourself permission." And I think we're experiencing that awakening now of, hot damn, I can do this. I'm gonna go do this. Let's get it
Yeah.
done. And it's for me,
Yeah.
it's really cool to see because because there was a time when the barrier to entry on things like books and music and movies were so incredibly high that you had creators who were stifled, horribly stifled, who had
Mm.
wonderful voices and great messages. And now all of that's been wiped away, and there are still these people going, but I don't know if I should. Ooh, how
Right.
do I, And it's folks like you, it's folks like, Ed Burns and all these people out there who are like, well, I'm just gonna do this and see what happens and then report back. And in the reporting back, we get people who rise up and go, well, damn, if Dave can do it, let's get this done. And it's, for me, it's just
Right.
so exciting and juicy to see people taking ownership of what their dream really is and building that empire, and still recognizing that, well, I got a life to live, I got bills to pay, I got mouths to feed, I've got those things that I got to do, and I'm still going to go for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and because you mentioned the phraseology of something calling, and I believe that that calling, I mean, we can give it any number of names, is a calling for truth, like the truth of who we are, of our existence, of why we're here. And I think layered within that truth is a desire for love. And one of the things that I have finally learned about myself as a creative, as a giver, as a leader by my nature, is this relationship with love. And one of the things I've really come to learn, not only about myself, but about a lot of creatives who I work with, who are givers by their nature, and they're using this creative means to give love, is that one of the biggest struggles, the biggest obstacles, the major, probably lifelong spiritual lessons that we're in this lifetime trying to learn individually within ourselves, is how we need to learn how to receive love and accept it and feel deserving of it. And it's really difficult. It's really, really difficult, especially when you're so used to, inclined, and comfortable with channeling the love and expressing it outwardly. And
It's much easier to deflect compliments, gratitude, and to feel
Payments,
undeserving.
payments,
Yeah,
that's a big one.
payments,
we've
money,
we've been
huge.
we've been trained as a culture to see money as not an act of love. Paying someone for their service is not, we don't see it as the act of love that it is. We see it as transactional, when in reality, when someone gives you money for your services or for your art, they're saying, I love what you've done so much, this is how I value it, or this is
Right.
the value you've put on it, and I agree with you. And we don't
Yeah.
see it that way. We see it as this icky, I gotta sell, ew,
Mm.
marketing law. And it keeps us stuck in that very spot that you're talking about. One of the huge issues that I have when I'm working with clients is their sense of self-worth around pricing. Well,
Mm.
and they walk out clear they're going to charge $100 an hour for their time, and the next time I talk to them, they're charging 25, and I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And somewhere
Yeah.
in the communication conversation, there's this breakdown of owning their value and allowing themselves to receive money as a form of
Mm.
love. And like you
Yeah.
said, not passing it off. That was a huge lesson for me. I'm going to tell this story because you got me going now. I was working with my coach, and I had a real block around having and receiving. People could give me, and
Mhm.
I was quick to pass it off and funnel it away, just like you were talking about. So she had everybody in the room hand me $1 million bills. Okay, not real $1 million bills, clearly, because the federal government never made them, but they're nice. And so I got this stack of money, and then she asks me to count it. And I count out 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million. And I put that fifth bill down, and I can't count anymore. I am so choked up, I can't count. And there were 32. There was $32 million there. And I couldn't bring myself to count it because I didn't feel it as part of my own worth. Like I did
Mhm.
not deserve it. And I
Mm.
actually went back around the room and ended up giving all the money away. And she's like, no, 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 no. You can't do that because now you have no money again. And it was a practice for me. I regularly had to practice not just receiving and saying thank you and being grateful, but then holding onto it and having it and
Mm.
understanding it as a reflection of someone else mirroring to me my value, my worth, and the love that I'm worthy of in the world. And until
Yeah.
we we get that,
Mm.
we constantly push away the blessings that are just waiting to come to us. Whatever your spiritual proclivities are, there is a
Mm.
blessing waiting for every one of us, particularly if we're going through something hard. And
Mm.
I maintain that whatever hard thing you're going through, whether you're in New York and you're running out of money, or you're living in a tiny little shoebox apartment with 5 cats and no way to feed them, or someone died, or whatever hard thing you're going through, there is a blessing on the other side of that hard that is equal to or greater than whatever it is you're going through. But you got to keep going. And
Mm.
every time you stop and back up and pull away from whatever it is you're going through, the longer it is before you get to that blessing on the other side. And part of that, getting through it, is recognizing, damn, I did good. And I am worthy of receiving the blessing that's on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really difficult to choose moments in which we challenge ourselves to say, do I deserve this or not? Am I deserving or not? It is one of the things that I believe is one of the more fundamental, paramount, like, questions to human existence, is worth. And it's not like, I receive $1,000 in my checking account and I'm like, woo, I am worth so much more now. I have $1,000 more in my checking account. It's not like that. But I mean, I have the members of my writers group. The average lifespan of a member, 13 months into the project, is 8.5 months. So that, thank you. And so, I mean, I look at something like that, and I'm like, these people who I almost exclusively consider friends more than clients by now are invested in me and what I'm teaching them, what I'm helping them with. And then, I'll go through the marketing stage of, okay, I need to collect some testimonials and I need to put them on the website to refresh. So I give the site some personality so people can see that there's actually something going on here. There's actually a community here. And I receive these testimonials and I'm like, oh my God, these people are really, they're transforming. I'm seeing them actually transform. I'm seeing lives change. I'm seeing people who were like, oh, I think I'll try my hand at writing, being like, I'm a writer, bitch, don't forget it. Like, and they're like more writers than I am now. So it's like, it is serious. I just channel a little bit of my own Breaking Bad there, my Jesse Pinkman there, but it's really remarkable, and I think that it's a long process too, and it's an ongoing thing where, I mentioned that I charged $50 for a quarter membership of the Literati when it first started. I'm now charging $200 a quarter because the value of the group has accelerated. My time has gotten to be, there's going to be less of my time to give in coaching and personal support. We're doing things like self-publishing our own collaborative books now. But every time I've like bumped up the price, I was like doubling it I think I've actually doubled it 3 times in a row for 3 membership windows. And every time I did it, I was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? Who am I to say that people are going to charge or pay $200 for 3 months of an online writers group? And for me, and they keep doing it. And the reason is, there's a variety of reasons, but outside of those details, every time we present ourselves with that challenge, it's not like we're saying like, am I worth it or not? Because basically you're ultimately gonna feel like you're worth it. But then the question becomes like, how worthy am I? Am I this worthy? Am I this deserving? Can I actually accept this gratefully and feel like saying thank you because I'm actually thankful? Yeah, and when someone signs up to be a Literati member and I say thank you, am I thinking in the back of my head, this person's crazy? Like, why did they just give me money? Or do I actually feel like this thank you because you just committed to yourself through the action of giving to me, and now we're going to change your life through the art of writing, which is what I now believe,
I think you need to go back and watch this segment for yourself and listen to what you just said, because everything you said comes directly from what I call the noble emperor's mentality. That idea of it's about being of service to your empire versus them being your serfs or you being a servant to them. And what you're talking about, I'm hearing you say, it's about changing their lives, it's about them investing in themselves. But really, you're being a mirror for them because you're doing all of the same things. You're accepting the blessings. You're modeling for them what they need to do and how they need to show up in the world for their own empire. And and I, it's been 2-3 years now that you and I have known each other, and
Yeah.
every time you step forward with grace and you step forward from a space of, well, yeah, I got to pay the bills, and how do I make this something that's going to be useful to the rest of the world or the rest of your world? Because that's really clearly, from a marketing standpoint, that's really all that matters is your world, the people that you're here to serve, the people that I'm here to serve. But what happens in the process, and this is something I always tell my clients, you're on this planet sucking air, therefore you have value. You are worthy because you're here. You're worthy because you've got some divine spark of uniqueness in you that nobody else has. And when you get into divine alignment with that, that is where you get to shine and people get to experience the worth that you bring to the world. So why the hell shouldn't you get paid for that? Why shouldn't you get all of the blessings, the monetary, friendships, connections, rewards, everything that comes with that? So don't sell yourself short in the process of what you bring to the table, because people wouldn't continue to spend $200 a quarter on you if you weren't holding the space for them. Because otherwise they'd just be like, dudes, why don't we get together and put $200 in a kitty and we'll go create our own group? We don't need that Dave guy.
Oh, I know. I totally agree. And the suggestions that I was giving of, I can't believe people are doing this, I can't believe it. Those were just kind of like the devil's advocate voices that everyone's going to hear no matter what level you get to.
That's right.
But yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think,
just one more quick example of something that I teach is, we have this, that, like you mentioned, the feeling that we're like demeaning a relationship with someone when there's money involved as a creator or a customer or a client. I've realized, like, is there no surer way to make someone invested outside of, like, emotionally invested, spiritually invested, personally invested in you, in themselves, than to use the dollar as an excuse to do that? Is there no surer way to actually bring people closer to you and to have a reason to make sure that they're doing well when they're struggling, to make sure that they are receiving the information, the content, the services that you have available for them? Is there no surer way to use the dollar as an excuse, as a reason, as a safeguard that keeps you mentally and emotionally invested in their betterment, and vice versa? I think that's a really worthy thing. Is it not? I just feel like it's so obviously the dollar exists for practical reasons. Is that not a practical reason to use payments for what you're creating, producing? That's how an artist starts to become an artist, is by going beyond the bubble of, I'm just going to create my own thing and eventually the world will love it, versus being almost like more entrepreneurial in mindset and understanding what people want and why they love your art in particular. And okay, well, how can I change that art and become even better? Is the art no longer serving me as I am comfortable with creating it or used to creating it? And how can I do it in a way that people don't expect, but they'll love it even more because they love what I stand for and what I'm hoping to do with my life? That's really how an artist grows, how a creator grows, how an entrepreneur grows. And using the dollar as an excuse for that is a great way to get there, period. And I just feel like we have all these tools at our disposal. The dollar is just one more tool, and it's a great reason
to charge more and to do awesome things.
It is. It truly is. I mean, why settle for, if in your work you choose to not settle, why not in your compensation, the whole package, choose to not settle?
Right.
I mean, it's both has. If you're putting everything you have into whatever it is you're trying to bring into the world, but you're not accepting what, the equivalent value is on the other side of that equation, number one, you're missing out because you're not going to be able to continue to put everything you've got into it because you're just not going to have enough coming in, which means
Right.
you're going to have to take something out or go do something else or whatever. But on the other hand, you're going to have that resentment of being overworked and underpaid. And when you
Mhm.
are willing to accept the beauty of full reciprocity of value,
Mhm.
you expand and there's more you can do and there are more people you can serve. I had someone say something to me not too long ago that really resonated. She said, the more money you have, the more good you can do. And I mean, it
Right.
seems like a no-brainer, but it's true. I mean, the more resources you have available to you, the more good you can put out in the world and continue to feel good about. So in that respect, it's a very selfish thing to do, to be selfless and recognize your worth and value in the world. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It keeps you honest. It keeps you honest.
And the reason why, one of the other reasons why we're fearful of that is because, I mean, what does it mean to be kept honest? It means you have more responsibilities, and it takes courage, it takes confidence, it takes commitment to self and others, in order to face down those fears and the feelings of self worth. I mean, like I said, there's no greater way to get closer to people than using the dollar as an excuse. That's because you are binding a sense of responsibility and commitment to those people, and just to be committed to them, to be committed to yourself, to keep showing up, to keep doing your work, to keep getting better at it, and challenging yourself to be, as unapologetically you as you can be, is how you get there.
And that's
word.
that's that's ultimately what it's all for.
Word. I know we've run over, but we do that because we start
We
talking
do.
and we just have a lot of good stuff to share. You do. I just bounce it back to you. So, anything else you want to hit on before we wrap up, or?
No, no, this has been an awesome conversation. I absolutely love it. I always love talking with you. We need to do it more often,
Yes, I think so.
clearly.
I think so.
But yeah, if anyone has any other questions, feedback, comments, you can find me. Just email me, Dave@daveursillo.com, and you can find out more about the writers group I've been mentioning at literatywriters.com. And I'll also have a roundup of all these conversations and purpose on my blog in the month of January. So you'll be able to find that there. And yeah, just do your thing. And if there's anything I can help with, please do reach out because I'm almost always in my inbox and just waiting to have a conversation of purpose with you.
I love it. That was great. At the end. That was fabulous. Dave, thanks so much for being with us today. And guys, until next time, this is Lisa Robbin Young signing off, and blessings and peace, everybody. Build your noble empire, live an inspired life. Have a great day.